I'm just lost. Like, I have this girl, I'm getting engaged. Like, we're traveling, we do whatever we want, buy whatever I want, like just living this, what I thought was like the dream, but I'm like empty.
Has God always played a major role in your life?
I really found God in my lowest moment of my life. While I was serving tables at Papados, they called me and they're like, hey, you have to go to the hospital. And he tells me that my only brother had passed away. I was so depressed and just in a really dark place, to be honest with you. And after my brother's funeral, I took my test a week later. And that night, the friend that I stay with, he ends up getting robbed. So I'm held at gunpoint. So I really believe that he spared me because everybody in the house was beat up, was robbed. I was the only one not touched, and I was just praying. And that was kind of the first sign of things of like, wow, this is something here.
Yeah.
And I reached this level of what some would say is a really great place, a 7-figure earner. But it's like, I'm just lost. Like, I have this girl, I'm getting engaged. Like, we're traveling, we do whatever we want, buy whatever I want, like just living this, what I thought was like the dream, but I'm like empty. So I end up breaking up with her. I'm just at this point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I just remember like God speaks to my heart and he's like, sell your house, move to Miami, start fresh, and build a new identity.
Welcome everyone to the Beyond the Cover podcast. My intent with creating this podcast was to provide a platform where men can speak openly about their journeys with mental health without fear of judgment while doing so. While I, the host, or you, the listener, may not agree with everything or anything that a certain guest says for that matter, my focus is not to decipher what is right or wrong. Rather, it's to gain a better understanding of why somebody thinks and acts the way that they do. And with this understanding, we will begin to make better sense of our own lives and the world around us. So join me as we open the books into these men's journeys and dissect the pages within. David Carpenter, welcome to Beyond the Cover.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, I am excited about this conversation today because I know we're going to do a deep dive into a area of focus that I haven't yet had a conversation with to a deep extent with a guest. And it's going to play into spirituality and your journey with God. As I looked upon your social media, I saw just everywhere. I mean, it was like you're mentioning of God. You're very open and vocal about it. And it's clear that he's played a massive role in your current state of being, who you are and ultimately what you've become. So it's awesome to see that because I think when people realize there's something bigger than them, I mean, there's a lot of great characteristics that come with that. Their belief in that they'll always find a way through, that God wouldn't take them to it if they wouldn't take them through it. And so you often see these individuals just being able to triumph through tons of adversity.
Yeah.
And you've done that. And we'll dive into that. But what's on the cover, you have your own insurance company that you created.
Yeah.
You told me you did 25 million in the last 4 years. So safe to say you got quite a powerhouse of a business that you built. But what I also loved was you mentioned that you have a ministry where it sounds like you coach other business owners to develop the skill sets to really just to believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think that's incredible that you're going down that avenue and giving back and really pouring your all into what it is you're doing. So
Thank you.
The first question that I want to lead in with is on the topic of God. Has God always played a major role in your life, or did it take a bout of adversity for him to come to the forefront of your life?
It's a great question. I would also say, thank you for having me on. I think what you're doing is incredible, and people need the realness, the rawness behind the cover. So it's an honor to be on here and have this conversation with you. And the answer is yes. I feel that he was always there, but I didn't really want to kind of surrender my life to him. Mm-hmm. I think he was always there in a sense where he was always looking out after me.
Okay.
But I believe that a lot of the problems that I was having were due to me wanting to make a lot of decisions based on pride, making a lot of decisions based on an identity issue that I had, which was people pleasing, which I think a lot of people have.
Dude, that's my biggest problem that I've had in my life.
And I still have to fight that. And that's a constant battle. But to be honest with you, I really found God in my lowest moment of my life. To summarize my story, I grew up in a house where, my dad was an entrepreneur, but landed himself in trouble because of pride. Okay. He had a mortgage company and ended up going under. He went to prison when I was 16. I was raised by a single mom, a foreigner from Trinidad and Tobago, who didn't really know how to make much money. So I remember having Christmases where I didn't even have presents. I remember staying at my grandma's house because we didn't have electricity. And I grew up here in Phoenix.
Okay.
And I saw both sides, being a business owner and also someone that, obviously the struggle that comes with it. Yeah. So when he went to prison, I made it my goal to take care of my mom and my sister. And at the time I had a brother. And that's exactly what I did. At 18, I transitioned from football and basketball to getting into sales because I realized I wasn't as jacked as you and as big, right? I'm like, you, God bless you though. And I transitioned into having to make money in sales. So the business I was in, it went under. So I ended up failing, put 5 years into it. Girlfriend left me at the time for another guy, for someone who was actually making some money. Mm-hmm. Because when my business went down, that's typically what happens. All hell breaks loose, right, in your life.
Of course, yeah. When it rains, it pours.
Exactly. Yeah. And at that time, I was searching. Like, I knew that I wasn't going to be a server. I was serving tables at this time, actually off the I-17 in Peoria here at Pappadeaux's Seafood Kitchen, which is pretty crazy that it's actually here because I live in Miami, right? Okay. Being back. Yeah. And I just remember being so broken, so lost, so depressed. And like, I knew that I needed to go do something with my life. So I started seeking for opportunity. It's funny, when you seek, you usually find. Mm-hmm. And I ended up finding a mentor who didn't just have financial success, but he had the values, the character, the family, great man. And his life was bigger. He had a bigger purpose than just making money, because I think money is a great thing to go have and to use, but it's not a purpose. It's not a great purpose. Okay. And end up following this gentleman. And long story short, end up getting started after a year of a ton of adversity. Everybody else that I started studying with passed before me, had more success before me. It took me a year just to pass the exam. Like, that is the slowest. Like, most people, 99.9% of people would quit to pass a life insurance exam to go into an all commission based business. Like, that just, most people would give up, right? Yeah. I decided to be committed to it. And when it rains, it pours. I get a call. I remember this time in 2016, while I was serving tables at Pappadeaux's Seafood Kitchen, and they called me in and they're like, hey, you have to go to the hospital. You have to leave all your tables. So I remember going to the hospital, them sitting me down. I remember like it was yesterday. It's a dark room. I was the first one at the hospital. And he tells me that my only brother had passed away, and that chances are he's not going to survive. They try to revive him, and I lost my brother that night. And I had two choices: either give up on my dreams and just say, "Hey, this is a sign that I'm not supposed to be doing insurance and business, and maybe I'm dumb for doing this because all this stuff is happening. Girlfriend left me." All this stuff, but I decided to honor him from it. So I really think life's all about perspective and how you even see adversity. Yeah. So I decided to honor him for it. And after my brother's funeral, I took my test a week later. And at this time, I remember being at my house, a little $450 a month apartment, with my mom coming over, and she just felt my depression. I was so depressed and just in a really dark place, to be honest with you, because I couldn't even afford my rent. And she looked at me and she says, "You're not even going to ask for money because I know you, but I'm going to give you your rent money. I just know moms know." So she gives me the money, and I look at her and say, "You'll never have to worry about money again." So I take the money and I drive hours away for my 5th time taking this exam. Hours, like 8 hours to this location. This is the only one I could go to. that I stay at a place that I go with a friend and I stay with a friend. And that night, the friend that I stay with, he ends up getting robbed. So I'm held at gunpoint with this guy in a clown mask the night before my insurance exam. And this is the same year that all this is going down, like the worst year of my entire life.
Yeah.
And I just remember praying. I said, God, like, if you just get me out of this, I like will do whatever it takes. I know that if I would have passed away, if I would have died, if I would have got hurt, my mom probably would have committed suicide because of the state that she was in. So I really believe that he spared me because everybody in the house was beat up, was robbed. I was the only one not touched, and I was just praying. And I got no sleep that night, clearly.
Yeah.
But I drove an hour away to take my exam. So I go hold my commitment to my brother. I'm like, because of all this is happening, this is going to be one heck of a story if I make it through this. So I got to keep going.
Yeah.
So I go and I finally take my exam. I end up passing it. So that was the first kind of encounter of like prayer. My family was more religious, but I didn't have a relationship with God. So completely different. I would go to church sometimes. I knew of him, but I didn't really know him. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the first sign of things of like, wow, this is something here.
Yeah.
But to kind of go into where I really found Christ was when I had success after that. So 4 years into this, I reached what I've been praying on, or what I've really dreamed about, buying my mom a house. I bought a $2 million house here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm 28 years old, 4 years into building this business, 9 years in as an entrepreneur. And I reached this level of what some would say is a really great place, a 7-figure earner. But it's like, I'm just lost. Like, I have this girl, I'm getting engaged. Like, we're traveling, we do whatever we want, buy whatever I want, like just living this, what I thought was like the dream. But I'm like empty, and I'm doing all this stuff to please other people, buying things that I don't need, buying things like cars, expensive things, even the $2 million house I didn't need. It was huge. But I'm like living this life for other people. And even though I did all these things that I thought was going to make me happy, I was still empty and lost. Mm-hmm. So when you get to that point, and I was full of pride, even though I had a great heart, because I really truly believe if you're a people pleaser, that is also part of pride.
Yeah.
Because if you're humble, you're okay with not taking the view on what someone views you, mm-hmm. and you're doing things because this is the way you believe.
Yep. Yeah.
So this next year came a really tough year, due to pride and big ego and things like this. I really believe I lost a business partner at this time, and my business was cut in half. Fiance at the time, I realized is not the one I want to marry. So I ended up breaking up with her, broken heart. And just like a lot of people here in Scottsdale, I go turn to Old Town. Okay. The worst idea.
A terrible
idea.
Fun.
And we all know this. It's fun, but man, it's not the place to heal. That's for sure.
I've turned to Old Town more than a few times in the last couple of years. And you get some battle scars.
Yeah. So I go this year, man, I'm telling you, it was probably beats the year that I was broke. Like, this year ends up being like the most empty year. Because now income cuts in half. I get to the point where I'm like really like tight financially. I'm broke. So I go from making $1 million plus. I probably made $3 million, blew it all, partying in Old Town. Mm-hmm. And I'm being just honest with you, because I'm not in a different place now. Thank you, God. But to the point where I'm broke because I partied, and I'm around people, and I'm buying the bottles, and I have all the girls at my table, and I'm getting all this like.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how expensive tables are too.
Come on.
I mean, we're talking $3,000 probably minimum.
Correct.
Yeah, 3 to 5, depending on the table, size of the table. If you're trying to people please, you might have bought the bigger tables. Exactly. We're talking now 8,000, 9.
Exactly.
It's really easy to blow that much money quick,
especially every weekend if you're doing it like I was.
Yeah.
And still trying to find validation. Mm-hmm. Still trying to say, hey, I made it. Look at me. Without me saying it, even though I had a good heart, I still loved people, and that's why I would go do it.
Yeah.
But long story short, get to that place, and this is where I find God. So I remember like it was yesterday. I'm like, what the heck? Like I remember just waking up and just disgusted with myself. Like after going out, I have all these friends, but really no friends, like no people that are actually really like love me for me, but they love the image of what I could do for them and what I could buy them.
Yep.
So I'm just at this point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I just remember like God speaks to my heart and he's like, sell your house, move to Miami, start fresh and build a new identity.
It's I started to smile there only because
it's Miami.
God's like, go to Miami.
Yeah.
Like, God, is this really you? Or is this Satan?
Yeah, exactly. I
don't know if Miami's really going to be a step up from Scottsdale. There's some it's similar, maybe a little bit. Correct. Like there's still same party scene. I mean, different has a beach there and all that, but it's not.
I think it's worse. I think Scottsdale's worse.
Oh, Scottsdale's worse than Miami.
The reason why is because it's smaller. And the reason why, if you are someone, everyone knows everybody here.
Yeah.
It's so easy. And so, like, I was getting blown up every night to go out.
Yeah.
Miami, I don't know anybody. And it's a hub of entrepreneurs. And there's good and bad everywhere. There's really great people that are focused and locked in as entrepreneurs like yourself here.
Yeah.
Maybe go out once in a while.
Yeah.
Right. But in Miami, it was fresh. And I knew there were great entrepreneurs out there. But I also knew that there was some like great churches. There was some really healthy activities to do. Like there's a lot of fitness places there. The lifestyle is actually very healthy on the outskirts of Miami. Okay. The city, obviously, you're going to get, as people want to get rowdy. Yeah. So I know that this is it. Like, because this voice like keeps bugging me about it. So I list my house and I'm just like, I'm going to restart. So I sell my house, move to Miami. And I get there and I realize I'm like, okay, I got to get new networks. So I hit up people that I know that are really, really just great, focused people, man of God. And this guy, Stephen Weatherford, who's actually
he's a former punter, right?
Yeah, former punter for the New York.
Jack too.
Jack, dude.
The guy like looks like a middle linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a good buddy of mine.
Okay.
I contacted him. He connected me with a guy there named Justin Roth, who's like a big speaker. Also jacked. He used to coach for the NHL.
Okay.
I get connected with him. I start working out with him and I just start meeting new people. And because I was obedient to God and that I listened to that voice, my whole network's changed. I start to see that I'm managing my money. I'm starting to see debts paid off. I'm starting to see that my business is starting to grow again, multiply.
Yeah.
And then because of this stuff that's happening, I'm also growing as a person. I'm not getting validated. I got rid of my nice car, my GT AMG. I moved into a place where it's like, it's still pretty pricey, but compared to what I was used to spending, it's like 40% of what I was paying out here.
Yeah.
And just gave away all my designer, gave it all away. $100,000 worth of designer, gave away my diamond. I had these diamond chains, the little tennis chains.
Yeah.
Spent 17 grand on them, gave them to my mom and dad. And I just freed myself. And I just remember like just feeling the presence of God and just feeling authentic and genuine and just not doing things for anybody else. And that transformation led me closer to God and hearing from him and being able to do so many great things for people.
Yeah.
for people. And that example set us so many people free in our company, which led me to starting this Bible study and teach people biblical principles on how to be a man of God, how to move differently than the crowd, how to be okay with standing out, how to be authentic and genuine, how to not cheat on your wife, how to treat women with respect and honor, how to take care of your body as a temple of God. And all these things, I was a completely different person a year later. And now it's been 2 years and got myself back to the 7-figure position this year. And it's just been a huge blessing. So huge transformation.
Man, you said so many incredible things right there. And a lot of it spoke to me because I can tell we're similarly hardwired. I am a big time people pleaser, or was. I would say that I'm getting over it as we speak. Like I'm probably 95% of the way through letting it go.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that you've experienced that I feel that I want to acquire. The excess wealth to an extreme degree, the ability to take all that in, thinking that these material possessions are going to basically raise my status to a point where I'm going to then see myself in a better light.
Yeah.
Because I frame it as, oh, it's not that I need you to see me driving in a Lambo so you can tell me how great I am.
Yeah.
It's that I see myself driving in a Lambo and saying, well, you can't get a Lambo unless you got it, unless unless you've built something so impressive that you can afford it. But then I've learned recently that, we live in an area where it's the $30,000 millionaires, where someone told me recently, they go, hey, you can get a Urus for probably $3,500 a month leasing it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's not what most people think. They think, oh, this car is worth $300,000 or whatever it is, but you can make it work at $3,500 a month, and that's doesn't take that much capital to do that. So it's a facade, and I find that a lot of things here are a facade. There's a lot of people trying to flaunt it when they don't have it. Yeah, but for me, I justified it as, oh, when I get the car, that shows me that well, obviously I'm doing something right. Yeah. I have high value, because if I didn't, there's no way I could afford this. Yeah. And I think that's just a lie. That's just a lie of the mind. It
is. And I want to speak into that a little bit, because I was the same way for so long. But what I realized is that the people that really got it don't need to show it.
Because they have that inner confidence to say, I don't need you to pat me on the back. I already have that internal validation.
And it almost makes you wonder too, because if you've really needed or craved that, then there's something deeper that that's not the place of validation, because they're still getting validation from other people. And you got to be validated by God and by who you are, because if not, you'll attract people that'll want what you can offer. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest shift don't get me wrong, I think it's great to have that, as long as that doesn't have you. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because I had a lot of nice things, but a lot of nice things had me. That was my identity. So it was the hardest thing to give it away, but it was the most freeing thing, because now when I have nice things, I'm about to buy a nice condo in Miami and about to do this, but it doesn't have my heart. Yeah. So it's just a thing now. Yeah. So I think if you can't give it away, or if you can't get out of it, or you can't get to the point where you can drive a car that is not that nice, or you can't, take a girl to a restaurant that's not the bougie place, whatever, then it's hey, let me ask myself, am I too far deep in this where this has a hold on my identity?
Yeah. Yeah. And what I gather is that when you were in Scottsdale, you were around a lot of takers. I just had someone recently bring this to my awareness that there's three people in life. There's givers, takers, and matchers. Love that. And it sounds like when you were in Scottsdale, you had a bunch of takers around you. Yeah. They weren't really providing anything in return other than external validation. Yeah. While you were the one footing the bill and basically giving them all these incredible experiences. But when you went to Miami, it sounds like you surrounded yourself with givers. Yeah. And they say you are the people that you surround yourself with. So it sounds like what happened is you shifted that support group into, I'm going to just lean into these individuals, and they started to just wear off on you. Yeah. And you became that giver, which now, to your point, you're I gave it all away. Yeah. And there's another saying that in order to gain it all, you have to first lose it all. Yeah. And I think you just completely embody that with your story. Because I can imagine, it probably wasn't easy to grab the tennis chain and be well, maybe I'll just put this in the closet in case, 3 weeks from now I have a change of heart, or, I got a hot date and I'll throw the tennis chain on. I have to imagine that wasn't the smoothest transition, right? Did you have this internal battle? And ultimately, you mentioned leaning back on God, but for those that are in a position where they say, okay, I'm caught deep in these material possessions, what's something tangible that someone in that situation can do to start to switch that narrative?
Yeah, so good. Great question. To kind of piggyback on that, go surround yourself with the ones that are givers, because oftentimes they don't need that stuff from you to be to hang out with you. Yeah. The people that I hang out with that are really, really successful, they don't even wear the jewelry. You would never know. Yeah. And it's just they just love me for me. Yeah. So that alone was eye-opening for me, where I don't even want to be around someone that I have to go act a certain way. I don't want a wife that wants me just for my money. Is it important that I feel like she should want someone that is successful and can take care of themselves? Absolutely. But I want, again, everybody in my life to love me for me, and that I'm a man of God, and that I treat people with love and respect, and I operate in a state of being of love. So to answer that question, when I gave my life over to Jesus, and I like really, really did. And what I mean by this is I got to a place where I completely surrendered my life versus just going and it's like, it's a religious thing where I go to church, and I just, maybe read my Bible here and there, and I check the boxes, but I really started to operate based on what the Word of God says. And when you really break down like the Word, God is love. And he sent his son to die for us, to cover and to pay our sins. And this really diving in to it healed me internally. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today without God, because I focused on the Word of God, and I focused on great people that were also helped me in my faith journey. And it healed my heart, man. What I mean by that was I got to the place where I'm like, man, he was really just like putting it on my heart, where it's like, you got to do this for your own healing. Yeah. And that started with breaking up with my girlfriend at the time. That was the first thing, because I knew that it wasn't someone I was going to marry.
So a lot of these things, just to jump in here, it sounds like you can call it intuition, God, but like you were having this voice that
listening to the voice,
that
though.
You were listening, you were paying attention.
Yes.
You're like, I can't. I mean, I'm guessing that you probably didn't just hear the voice once and say, okay, I'm cutting this. You probably had it continually speaking to you.
In my heart.
Like, okay, my heart, I can't deny it at this point.
I can't deny it.
Yeah.
And I think that too many times we stay comfortable because I had the validation of like, I'm not going out. She's here. She's a beautiful girl. She's exactly what I like. Sure, she doesn't have everything, but hey, I could form her. I could shape it.
It's safe. It's stable.
Yeah. And he's like, no, like go break up with her. Like, you've never even been single where you haven't entertained a girl for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Like, that means you're not healed.
Yeah.
So I go leave her. So I break up with her. That's tough. I'm in a place where I'm used to having friends, going out, doing whatever I want, whenever I want. And I'm like, wow. And I realized that I leveled up so much, because again, now I'm not leaning on someone for my comfort. I have to get comfort in being okay with who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that time with God, he really healed my heart. So I haven't been with someone for, it's been like a year. No dates. I think I went on one date. I won't entertain.
Wow.
I won't go on dates. Like, I'm just locked in.
Yeah.
Second thing was getting rid of all the designer. Third thing was getting rid of the GT AMG. I used to have a Bentley back in the day. Used to have all these nice cars. He's like, get rid of it. Then it was the chains. And then it was the place. I had a place on the water. I went to just like a normal place. I just went to a normal place to Coral Gables. And through this process of listening to that voice, leaning into that voice, which I believe is God, that was the fastest way to change my life and elevate me. I mean, my business has more than doubled this year. My peace is through the roof. The confidence I have comes from something that's bigger than me. And I truly feel great in a place where, and I'm not perfect. I still deal with the people pleasing here and there, but I'm coming to a place where now I can show up to serve. Because if you're not fully whole, or you're dealing with a lot of this stuff, you can go bleed in to other people. And what I mean by that is you could be angry at someone because you're dealing with something. Like, deal with the problems first before you go get back into a relationship. Go deal with, like, hey, do these things have me? Right? Are these my identity, or is my identity centered in my faith or God or who I am? And do I have people in my life that are takers or givers? Like, take an audit of your life. And if not, I encourage someone on here. That's the peace that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. We're not created to be like everybody else. We're created to be authentically you and
absolutely.
beautifully you.
Yeah. And I feel like what I would describe it as, you're saying, you need to be able to address the things you're dealing with before you take on somebody else.
For sure.
And you talk about, life is about, it's about love. God is love. And
Yeah.
I found that for me personally, it's like I've spent a long extended period of my life being single right now for, I think now it's been 2 years.
Let's go.
Because, and there's certain things I'm not perfect. I mean, again, I think there's still parts of me where it's like I partake in things that I end up harming me.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, I know that in order for me to be able to pour into somebody else's cup, I have to have a full cup, meaning I have to first love myself fully before I can give love to other individuals. Because if I don't have love inwardly, then how am I supposed to then pour from something that's empty, right? I won't have the energy to do so. And so I think it's absolutely paramount that people take that time to develop themselves and again, surround yourself with an incredible group of people in the meantime, so you don't feel alone, so you don't feel isolated and cut off from the world. Because I can imagine it probably wasn't easy not going on a date for a year. I bet there were points where you're like, well, I could entertain this girl's beautiful, but then you felt ultimately like this is not what's necessary for me at this point in my life. I want to ask you something, and this comes from a selfish place, because I'm just curious. So I kind of alluded to it, but I'm in a place in my life where there's a lot of fortune coming my way. I can feel it. And it's material things. So everything that you just told me you had to let go of, I'm at a place where I'm like, I can just feel this tidal wave coming where I'm like, there's opportunities and things that I've built and things that are just going to come flooding in.
Yeah. Which is great.
It is. But then you make the statement that, again, like you end up losing yourself in it. I'm just curious if, before you acquired all of those material possessions, did you have anybody telling you that, hey, these things are great, but like ultimately it's gonna lead you down a bad path? Like, did you ever have anyone say that to you? And did you just go, whatever, I have to find out for myself? Or did nobody ever like mention that to you? Because you're mentioning it to me now, but I can just tell you right now, my stubbornnness and my curiosity says, I hear him. But I'm going to have to go walk down that path myself and basically experience the pain. Like there's an intrigue there and an interest. So I'm like, I guess there's not enough of a pain point right now for me to 100%. Just say, okay, I can hear this and just not go down the path. Yeah.
I think, I didn't have anybody to tell me that.
Okay.
So, and you will experience that it's not enough.
Yeah.
You'll get to the point, because the way that we're built is it's not about obtaining the thing, but it's the consistent growth.
Yeah.
But the deal is that you want to get to the point where those things are just things, that they don't make you they don't elevate you. Like, that's where I believe it's a little toxic, is where you're like, and then just be honest, this is majority of us. So it's if I'm being honest, but the things don't make you. The thing that makes you is you. Like, the thing that got those things is you. So don't lose the value of who you are, because you could go lose it all, like I did.
Yeah.
And it was God in the giftings that He's given you that is far greater. And if people don't understand that about you, those aren't people that you want in your life.
Yeah.
So the thing I would caution you as is just looking at, when you get it, okay, maybe no new friends that are not adding value, right? People are going to look at you different, and that's okay. And it's as long as you're getting it for you into something that you love, go for it and do it. But also, if you feel like you couldn't give it away, or if that really makes who you are, you're like, finally, I'm validated. That's not usually the healthiest ideal for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. What I love that you're touching on is mindfulness. Yeah. Having a sense of awareness. With everything that you've answered, you continue to talk about checking in with yourself.
Yeah.
So just sitting there, listening to the voice, that inner voice, listening to God, like feeling out the experience and understanding, like, this isn't right for me. She's not right for me.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people go on autopilot.
Come on.
And that's where they miss the boat. That's where they struggle, because it's like, we have this intuition, we have for those that are spiritual, you have God that's working through you to say that, hey, like, I'm giving you the answers, and you don't need to necessarily know the rationale behind it. Just know that the feeling's there, because it's me instilling this within you.
Yeah.
And now I just need you to hear it out and trust me. right? And I think that's a scary thing, like for a lot of people, is to say, God, you're telling me to sell my $2 million house. You're telling me to pick up and move to Miami.
Yeah.
Like I got a decent thing going here right now. And I'm supposed to give away the tennis chain. I'm supposed to do all this. Like, can I keep some of it? Like you keep telling me to strip myself of everything. Like she can't stay. Like what if I get rid of the car and the house? Like it was like, no, I mean, you felt it was like everything, give it all up. You want the beachfront property or the waterfront property? Nope, drop it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to take a tremendous amount of strength, and it does, but it also shows that you had a tremendous amount of trust.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely incredible to see. And it shows, it just shows you how powerful of a relationship you have in God.
Yeah.
There's something that we haven't touched on that I am just curious though, with your people pleasing nature. It's a twofold question. One, are you still a people pleaser? But before you answer that, I want you to take me back to the origin point. Is there an origin point for you? Do you remember when you started becoming a people pleaser?
Answer is no. I look to please God. So if it pleases God, what do I mean by that? Well, do I love people and serve them in a way that He would be proud of as a father? Am I? Because the way He looks at us is in love. He doesn't look at anybody less than. So do I give someone everything that I got when I come encounter with them? Do I make someone feel seen? Do I make someone feel loved? Like, do I give my best when I go do things in business and operation in my life and my family? Am I present, or am I on my phone? Am I being dragged in? Am I from a place of, oh God, I'm not grateful for a crazy great growth that you've given me because I want more. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, at the end of the day, if I could say, like, God, are you pleased with me? Like, that's where I'm actually asking myself. And I know that I'm going to stand out and people aren't going to agree with that most of the time, but that's okay, because now I'm at that place. Now, do I suffer like everybody else does, or I'm like, man, I don't really want to go post this scripture about God and have someone like, question this or not this. It's so easy to just not do this. But I've gotten to the place where I'm at complete, like you said, surrender, because I've listened to His voice, and every time I've listened to His voice, it's brought a million times more things that I could ever acquire on my own. And into the origin of it was growing up poor, seeing not everybody, but a lot of people that they were going to the trips, like family vacations, doing all this stuff that I didn't have. At that point, I'm like, I want to get to that point. And being in the crowd, and I guess like in high school, I guess it started in school, because if you don't fit in, you're an outcast and you're just weird, right? That's just the reality of what the perspective is, if we're being honest. So probably sometime in school and also with my family, being, having an older brother and, cousins and stuff like that, being picked on, you just want to just fit in because it feels good. But the reality is, when you fit into everybody, you're never really going to be happy. But if you fit into the ones that are just like you, that elevate you, that grow you, you will feel great, because you can't please everybody. So as long as you're in your lane and being your true authentic self, and the people you attract, you're going to notice that things are a lot different. So am I working on this? Is it a constant struggle? Do I have to constantly, every single day, die to my flesh or die to my pride? For freaking sure. Just sometimes I want to go just say screw it and send it and go on a date with, beautiful women that are in my DM. Absolutely. But I know that every day that I say no to my flesh, yes to God, is a day closer that He can trust me more. And I believe He will give me more, because I can manage and handle more. Because that's really just how my life has been, in this extent of what has been able to happen recently in this last 2 years.
Something I'm curious about is with your relationship with God. You just mentioned that basically, I mean, you believe that He gives you what you can handle. So as you elevate yourself, He gives you greater challenges. And you welcome that. You're like, okay, God, like this is a tough one, but I mean, again, you must really believe in me in the same way that I believe in you. So we'll get through this. With that, I'm just curious on your thoughts, and maybe you feel it's both, but there's this ideology of, God, there's predetermination and free will. So either God has a path for me that he's created, and I'm the one that's walking down that path and carrying out what He has planned for me, or, God's walking alongside me, but I'm the one that ultimately gets to choose which path I go down. Do you fall in either camp?
I would say you really do have that choice.
Mm.
Does he know what you're going to do? Will he caution you? You have that gut feeling for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Will you know right from wrong? Like, absolutely. We know that we know the truth. But a lot of times it's just the settling part. And I think also sometimes that it will be prolonged. I really believe the faster you can get to the point where you're saying yes to that intuition in you, God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking your heart is the fastest way to your destiny. The fastest way for you to get to the point where everything that I believe that your dreams are seeds. In that seed, it like that vision that he put in your heart is there for an absolute reason. So for you to get to that thing
mm-hmm.
takes that self-control and that discipline of being able to say, I'm going to listen to this and trust you. And I don't see it happening right now, but I'm going to say yes to this voice as many times as possible.
Yeah.
And it's the same voice when you don't want to wake up and it's 5 a.m. and you got to go to the gym and you got to go outwork people. Like that same voice
mm-hmm.
in the way that you eat, that same voice. And you have a girlfriend or a wife, but this girl's at your workplace and she's looking at you and it's like you're super attracted to her and you're like, do I go flirt with her? Right? That same voice. So if you can hone in on that and get to the point where that's where you're going
mm-hmm.
and what you know is right and you stay there as much as you can, that's the fastest way for you to elevate and take your life to another level.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do so by being authentically yourself, by being the person that God designed you to be.
Yeah.
And I agree with that 1000%. It's interesting how you mentioned the origin point, growing up and you were comparing yourself to others. And that's exactly what I did. You mentioned getting picked on. I was getting picked on as well at a young age. You mentioned having, siblings or friends that seemingly had more and that you were competing with. I competed with my middle brother, that had more than I did at that point. He was a better athlete. Girls liked him a little bit more than they liked me. And that set off this just mission to try to impress everybody.
Yeah.
But then I found that trying to impress everybody just drained all my energy.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the place where you finally go, you know what? I'm just going to be me. And it does push people away. It pushes the wrong people away.
Yes.
But it attracts the right people.
Yes.
And then what you find is, like, I tell people, you're in the right group of people when you interact with them and you get a burst of energy,
mm-hmm.
right? The energy suckers, that's a great way. If you're ever in a conversation with somebody, you walk away and you go, that just like drained me.
Yeah.
They're just not the right person for you. You're not on that same wavelength.
Yes.
So now as I've surrounded myself by people that are the right people, I just feel invigorated. I feel like I could run through a wall after I talk with them. I'm like, man, I'm expending energy talking to them, but yet even though I'm expending energy, I'm almost like absorbing their energy back, right? And it's building me up. And that's one of the best ways now for me when I tap into my intuition is I just go off of feeling, which is everything that we've discussed today is how does this feel? If it feels right, then it probably is right for me, right? If there's some gut feeling that's just wrenching at me and it's saying, no, like there's a purpose for that, right? And I think that's where people try again. They go back to, well, rationally, why am I feeling this way? And it's like, you know what? Sometimes God's instilling in something in you so great that like it would require God's mind to understand it. And that's where there's that faith component where it's just like, I have faith that this is being planted within me. And I don't necessarily need to know the answer. In fact, God, I have faith in you. So I don't need to have the answer. I just need to believe that you are ultimately taking me where I need to go. And that's, and this is new to me. I've been, partaking in this journey in the last year or so, and
Praise God.
And it's been incredible. It's led me to some awesome places, and I feel that it's just been incredible, man. Everything that you've said today, it's almost like you've walked ahead in the path that I'm walking down. So I just like from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you, because it's validating in the sense of like, here's someone that's went through it. And it reminds me like I'm on the right path, but here's some things that I also, can be ready to handle because it's inevitable that they're coming. So it's almost like you're like God speaking through you to me to like provide me with a sense of guidance and a sense of caution that what lies ahead. So I want to say thank you for that.
Honor.
It's one of the final questions I want to ask you is.
That was so good, by the way. You just threw that. That was fire.
Oh, well, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah. I learned so much by listening nowadays. I used to try to speak to try to impress. The more I thought, oh, if I have, I need to speak up, that way people can be impressed by my knowledge base. And now, gosh, I'm a sponge. I just regurgitate what I hear and make it my own and push it back out there. And all I can do is just thank everybody around me for forming me into what I am. So thank you for validating my statement, but just know that that's a culmination of all the incredible people that I've dealt with in my own life. So what is one area right now, your single greatest area of improvement? So you got a seemingly great grasp on life. Yeah. What's the one thing right now that you can say, all right, God, like I'm still working on this?
Yeah, that's great. I would say the relationship piece.
Okay.
Being completely okay with, like in the word, it talks about your wife's a helper. Like it's a destiny mate. It's someone that is going to be there for your mission. Mm-hmm. Like the whole word submission is submitting to a man's mission, his vision, I like that, where the man's leading the wife. And she comes up where they're partners. It's a partnership. So waiting on not settling for that is something that I have to every day deny.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that because I know what waiting has done in a sense of like, I'm working on myself every single day to give her the best husband that she could possibly ever have and the best version, the most whole, the most ready for her as possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just waiting. I'm here. Yeah. Like we're going to work. We're going to make sure that like she's the queen. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that waiting is the preparation season. Mm-hmm. Right. So in my preparation season, this is something that every single day, like I'm waiting on God for, and that is, it is challenging, but I love doing it. I'm waiting. And I know like when I do meet her one day that it's going to be all worth it. So
yeah. And what I love is how you said that right now you're in the preparation period.
Yeah.
I clicked in on your website and I saw you made a comment about being 1% better.
Yeah.
And I used to live by this motto. I still live by it. It was my favorite motto for a long period of my life. Beat yesterday every day.
Love it.
So I was like, hey, take out the comparison to everybody else. Just focus on if I can learn one more thing than I did the day before, then these will stack up. Mm. And ultimately the way I see it too with my current period of singleness is every day that I don't meet my partner just means that like what God's going to bring my way is going to be absolutely incredible because I'm getting 1% better every day. Mm-hmm. So if I meet my, partner today versus meeting them in a year from now, well, I might increase that percentage 365 points.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, that person's going to be that much more incredible, right? Because I believe in the matching of energy and I believe, what you give is what you get.
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm like, the longer I wait, it just means that there's something incredible out there for me. Or maybe that person's already out there and I need to elevate to their level.
Yeah.
So either way I see it, I'm like, I'm just only going to find a better partner the longer I wait, which is the truth, because when you don't force it, it just finds its way to you. Yeah. When people get impatient, they just pick the next best thing that's right there. And there goes the compromise. And now what happens is that compromise that you create now, whether it's 6 months from now, or whether it's 3 years from now, it turns on you and you realize like, I should have never compromised. That's something that now is becoming one of the biggest sticking points in our relationship. And now you have emotional turmoil and you have a relationship breakdown. And then before you know it, you're back out there, being single again and having to find yourself and say, I don't want to do that again. But so many people are just impatient and they say, I need something now. When it's like, no, what you need is to just focus on yourself. And then that best version of somebody else will come to you when the timing is correct, on God's timing.
Absolutely.
Couldn't
agree more.
Dude, I love so much of your mindset and truthfully, everything you shared today, I know is going to, it's already impacted me. I know it's going to impact so many other people. So David, thank you. And for those that want to continue to, or start to follow your journey, what's the best way that they can do so?
Instagram, I would say. David E. Carpenter is the tag.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So it's all there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, David, thank you so much for joining me today.
Appreciate it.